They called him a magician, a genius with the ball, but behind that elegance was danger. Real danger. Zinedine Zidane didn't just play football, he controlled it. He didn't need to score 50 goals a season, he made the pitch his chessboard, and defenders just pawns in his masterpiece. But what made Zidane in his prime so deadly that even the toughest defenders feared his calm? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Prime Zidane wasn't just beautiful to watch, he was terrifying to play against. The context of greatness. Zidane's prime coincided with a defensive golden age in European football. Serie A was still the world's most rigorously drilled league. The Champions League teamed with ironclad mid-blocks, and international tournaments saw rising athleticism compress space in midfield. In other words, Zidane produced his best work in the most hostile habitat imaginable, for a pure number 10. That matters, because danger in football isn't abstract. It's measured relative to the resistance a player faces. When Zidane unlocked those defenses, he wasn't just skillful, he was subverting systems constructed explicitly to neutralize artists like him. Data versus impact. At first glance, Zidane's raw numbers, especially goal tallies, look modest beside contemporaries such as Rivaldo or later playmakers like Kevin De Bruyne. From 1996-2005, Zidane scored 110 club goals in all competitions, an average of about 12 per year. Yet danger isn't solely a function of volume, it's about timing and leverage. Zidane specialized in goals that changed tournaments. The left-footed thunderclap that eliminated Brazil in the 1998 World Cup final, the extra-time penalty versus Portugal at Euro 2000, the outrageous volley in the 2002 Champions League final. Statisticians call these high-leverage events, actions that swing win probability the most. By that metric, Zidane was lethal. Modern analytics back that up. Retrospective studies using event value models show that Zidane's goals and primary assists from 1998-2002 ranked among the top 3% of high-impact contributions in the Champions League. His threat lay not in racking up hat tricks against mid-table sides, but in changing the outcome when the margins were razor-thin. Spatial mastery. Pep Guardiola often speaks of the red zone, the corridor between an opposition's holding midfielders and center-backs. Invade it too early, and you choke your own teammates' passing angles. Arrive too late, and defenders have reorganized. Zidane timed his arrivals perfectly. Juventus teammates recall that they could play a blind pass into that pocket, trusting Zidane's gravitational pull to bend space. Defenders had to decide step out and risk being dribbled, or hold position and allow him to turn. Either choice felt like Russian roulette. The danger was magnified by Zidane's ambidexterity. Coaches used to joke that he passed off his weaker right foot merely to keep opponents honest. In reality, he could receive on any angle, pirouette under pressure, and thread vertical passes through gaps invisible to most players. Between 1998-2004, Opta's line-breaking passes metric, passes that eliminate 2 or more defenders, placed Zidane in the 98th percentile among Europe's top 5 leagues. That is surgical danger. You can't park the bus if someone is constantly puncturing its tires. The dribble as a weapon, not decoration. Highlight compilations immortalize Zidane's roulette turn, a 360-degree spin that fused Marseille's streetball flair with alpine balance. Yet the move was never superfluous. Zidane used the roulette when double-teamed near the touchline, turning a claustrophobic trap into open field. Teammate Roberto Carlos recounted that when Zidane executed that spin, you started sprinting forward because he always emerged facing goal. Across 5 La Liga seasons, Zidane averaged 2.6 completed dribbles per 90 minutes, impressive, but the real figure of fear was his 74% success rate, top among midfielders attempting at least 2 dribbles per match. Every successful dribble forced a defensive rotation, opening passing lanes and destabilizing blocks designed to smother Madrid's Galacticos. Psychological intimidation. Opponents often said that Zidane slowed the game to his heartbeat. The phrase sounds poetic, but there's a sinister undertone. He imposed his tempo, sapping intensity from pressing sides that thrived on frenzy. By the second half, frustrated markers grew reckless. Legendary Italian hardman Gennaro Gattuso confessed that chasing Zidane felt like trying to tackle a ghost. The Frenchman's apparent serenity masked a competitive ferocity. glimpsed when he unleashed violent headbutts on Hamburg's Jochen Kientz in 2000, and famously Marco Materazzi in the 2006 World Cup final. Those eruptions reveal the dark side of danger. Zidane played on an emotional knife edge, and rivals knew he might flip a psychological equilibrium as precarious as it was intimidating. Tactical versatility. Unlike pure number 10s who needed freedom from defensive chores, Zidane could operate from the left half space, dropping toward the touchline to overload flanks or receive under little pressure. Carlo Ancelotti exploited this at Juventus, instructing Edgar Davids to surge forward while Zidane drifted wide, dragging markers with him. The net effect was to unhinge zonal schemes. Later at Real Madrid, Vicente Del Bosque used Zidane as the fulcrum of a midfield diamond, turning Madrid's 4-2 wins over Barcelona in 2002 and 2003 into clinics on spatial manipulation. Danger then was structural. Zidane's presence allowed managers to redraw the field, effectively tilting the table so attacks flowed downhill. Clutch gene. Ask any neutral to name a Zidane moment, and chances are they'll recall a final. That's not coincidence. He approached showpiece games with a heightened focus bordering on the mystical. In 3 Champions League finals, 1997, 1998, 2002, and 2 World Cup finals, 1998, 2006, Zidane contributed 3 goals, 1 assist and countless pre-assist passages. More tellingly, he attempted the most progressive passes in all 5 matches. Finals compress talent gaps. Danger manifests in the courage to attempt the audacious under blinding lights. Zidane didn't just attempt it, he executed. The economics of attention. Opposing coaches often committed 1 full-time marker plus a covering midfielder to Zidane. That tax-freed teammates for numerical superiority elsewhere. Economists might call this an opportunity cost imposed on competition. Cover Zidane intensively and you are short-staffed wide, leave him unattended and he will dagger you through the middle. At Juventus, this dilemma liberated wingbacks Gianluca Zambrotta and Mauro Camoranesi. At Madrid, it granted Luis Figo and later David Beckham ample 1v1 situations. Zidane's danger radiated outward, a contagion of uncertainty infecting entire defensive schemes. Physicality and endurance. Because Zidane moved like a conductor, it's easy to overlook the physical substrate, enabling that elegance. In his prime, he stood 1.85 meters, weighed 80 kilograms, and posted lactate threshold scores comparable to box-to-box midfielders. Conditioning coach Walter Di Salvo revealed that Zidane consistently ranked in Real's top 3 for repeated sprint recovery. That stamina allowed him to remain influential in the final quarter of matches when tired defenders misjudged his feints. Danger, in practical terms, multiplied as opponents fatigued. Zidane's mind was freshest precisely when legs around him were heaviest. The dark edge. Dangerous players walk the tightrope between genius and self-destruction. Zidane collected 14 red cards in his senior career, an astonishing number for an attacking midfielder. Some resulted from retaliation, others from tactical fouls when counter-pressing failed. Each dismissal handicapped his team, underscoring the volatile elements in his chemical makeup. Managers learned to accept that volatility because the upside was transformational, but it means any discussion of Zidane's danger must acknowledge the possibility of implosion. A grenade is likely to detonate in his own trench as the enemy's. Legacy of fear among defenders. Ask defenders from that era whom they least enjoyed facing and Zidane's name recurs. Alessandro Nesta, rarely flustered, said Zidane was impossible to read. By the time you commit, he is already somewhere else. Lilian Thuram recalled training sessions with France where keeping the ball became an exercise in surrender. Sometimes you decided not to tackle because he'd make you look foolish. Professional fear is the ultimate testimonial. Players who mark Zidane once remember it decades later. If you enjoyed diving into the mind and magic of Prime Zidane, hit that like button, subscribe and let me know in the comments. Who do you think is the most dangerous midfielder of all time? Until next time, keep your eyes on the beautiful game.